Caitlin Clark was not happy. And in fact, she was pissed. This is her exchange with Victoria Vivians of the Seattle Storm. As you can see, Clark getting up in her face. An exchange here happening. Aaliyah Boston has to come in and break it up on behalf of Caitlin Clark. And that's the kind of spicy play and spicy, feisty attitude I want to see. I'm happy seeing that from Caitlin Clark because she is getting roughed up out there on the court. You know, the level of physicality that the refs are allowing teams to play with against her outweighs the level of physicality the Indiana Fever are allowed to get away with. I mean, she's getting hacked. She's getting constantly double teamed. And she fought through it for a long period of time in this game against the Storm. She was fighting through the double teams. She was driving to the basket. She had a play where she fought through a double team and still hit a step back three. And you could see the frustration coming off of her face. And in fact, the frustration even boiled over with her coach. I think Christy Sides, made some Indiana Fever fans happy, even some of the ones who were calling for her job by picking up a technical foul in defense of Caitlin Clark on a play inside where Clark was mauled, no call, and Sides got a technical, which to her credit, she did say Caitlin needs to stop complaining to the refs. She didn't say Caitlin specifically, but it was a question about Caitlin, and she said, let me do it. Let me get the technicals. And she got the technical, and I think I even saw Caitlin Clark clap after that. So that was good to see, the fight and that spirit, and it's been a constant theme. Now we're getting pretty far into the season where it may need to be switched up a little bit, and I don't blame the other teams. Look, Caitlin Clark is a threat wherever she is on the court. Obviously, with superstar players on the other side, you want to physically rough them up, get them frustrated. That's been a basketball strategy forever. But at some point, they got to blow the whistle. And at some point, they got to properly officiate the game. And I'm not saying the refs have a bias one way or the other. I'm just saying, it needs to be course corrected. And I think a lot of Fever fans were frustrated with the officiating in this game in general, the way that the calls went. But, with all that said, some of that frustration comes into play because the Indiana Fever are just not a good basketball team. I mean, referees, we can talk about that, but this is not a talented team. And with Temi Fagbenle out, she's been their second best player all season long. So I knew things might go south pretty quickly without Fagbenle. And if you just look at the squad as a whole, like Melissa Smith played pretty well, but was a minus 25 on the court. She ran the floor well early. Clark rewarded her. She has a little bit of a scoring skill set, some size. Kelsey Mitchell can score. We've seen that. Doesn't always see the floor great, but she could score. Aaliyah Boston was tough on the board. She got 10 rebounds, but, didn't really do much offensively. Doesn't move at the pace that I think they need to move at all the time. And beyond that, like I saw Samuelson hit some threes late when they didn't matter. Other than that, she hasn't really offered anything. And this is a team that just completely lacks in athleticism and defense and toughness. I mean, that's why I liked seeing that toughness from Clark, that frustration from Clark, who gradually, as the game went on, didn't shoot the ball as well. I think some of that was the accumulation of the contact, but I really liked the feistiness she played with, and I thought she played very well. But she's just simply not going to be able to elevate this team by herself where they need to go, and with the few other players who are really contributing and have been consistently contributing. I mean, again, Fagbenle, I think, has been their second best player. Smith came in and gave them some buckets. Mitchell will consistently, I think, give them some buckets. Not efficient again in this one. But beyond that, they're getting almost nothing from anybody else. Boston's game is not conducive to playing the style and with the pace. In order for her to get the buckets, you got to slow it down. And then they got a bunch of players who aren't really adding anything at all. And everybody's asking, for Christy Sides to put certain players in the game, but, Hull and Berger and they're not adding much while out on the court. I mean, there's a reason this team had the number one pick And unfortunately, I think their number one pick from last year is not one of those number one picks that's gonna, I hate to pile on Aaliyah because again, what she brings to this team is a certain level of size and physicality and rebounding, but her play style doesn't mesh great with Clark's. Even beyond that, too many of her shots get blocked. And when you compare her up against the other elite bigs in the league, the Asia Wilsons and the Brianna Stewart's, it's just a huge, huge gap. It's a huge, huge gap. So unfortunately, I mean, I posted this question on my live the other day. I wonder how long fans are going to be sticking through with the Indiana Fever. I guess as long as Clark plays well, people will stick around. But it's got to be frustrating. It's a frustrating watch. They got spanked by the Storm, who you just see have more players with juice and spice out there. Agumake, 17 points. She's averaging 19 and 7.5. Jewel Lloyd is averaging 19 and 7 on the season. Skylar Diggins, they've got multiple players who can hoop. And you just see the athleticism and energy difference and defensive difference and really just shot making at times too. I mean, the Fever had a bunch of open threes early and they missed them all. The Storm hit them all. Problems. And the Fever are not good enough defensively. They're not quick enough as a team. They don't have enough team speed, enough team athleticism. Full disclosure, if I got any of the box score stats wrong, it's because there's still a couple minutes left in this game. But obviously I knew it was over. Chicago Sky, Angel Reese, that showdown is next. That's going to be a big-time, highly televised, marquee matchup. But I just don't know what the Fever have. Because everyone wants to blame Christy Sides. Can you blame Christy Sides for this one? We got to start talking about the GM and who they're going to draft. How do Paige Beckers and Caitlin Clark fit together? But you see that frustration come out from Caitlin Clark because it's got to be frustrating to play in these games. And I knew it when I saw Fag Penley was out. Like, that's a tough blow for a team that just doesn't have enough. Smith ran the floor really hard early. She scored well. Again, Mitchell's an ISO scorer. She'll be able to get buckets. But beyond that, there's not too much out there to contribute. And the double teams are coming at Clark. And they're not able to make the opposing teams pay. They're not able to make them pay. Because the team's not fast enough, not moving enough, not enough swings, not enough open shots being hit. Bunnies being missed. Balls not being caught. Just saw Boston get a late point, and the Fever went on an 11-0 run at the very end of the game here. Aaliyah overall had a stronger game in this one. So I don't want to be too harsh on her. I just saw her hit a 3 as well. Some of that's the frustration coming out of me. And I don't want to be unfair in what I say because I haven't loved the fit with Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark, but Boston has played better, and she did not play particularly poorly in this one. And she was, the rookie of the year last year. So I'm going to show her some grace. But they might be looking at another number one pick. It might be time to turn the page to Beckers.